I never thought I would tell this story. Even now, my hands shake when I think about it. Pause. My name is Sarah. I am 20 years old. I was born and raised in a small Amish community in Ohio. My whole life was simple. We lived by our faith. We worked hard. We respected our parents. We followed the rules we were taught since childhood. And for most of my life, I believed that if I did everything right, everything would turn out right. I was wrong. The day my husband left me for my younger sister, something inside me broke. But to understand how it happened, I have to start before that day. I grew up on my father's dairy farm. We were not rich, but we had enough. We had cows, chickens, a large garden, and fields that stretched beyond the road. Our home was always busy. I had 3 brothers and 1 younger sister named Rebecca. Rebecca was 18. People always noticed her. She had a bright smile that made everyone smile back. She could walk into a room and somehow become the center of attention without even trying. I loved her. At least I thought I did. When we were children, we shared a bedroom. We whispered secrets after dark while our parents slept. We braided each other's hair. We helped Mother with laundry and sewing. I never imagined she would become the reason for the worst pain of my life. Pause. I met my husband, Daniel, when I was 17. He was from a neighboring Amish district. He was quiet, strong, hard-working, the kind of man every Amish father wanted for his daughter. My father liked him immediately. My mother often smiled whenever his name came up. "You could build a good life with a man like Daniel," she would say. Back then, hearing those words made my cheeks turn red. Daniel did not speak much, but when he did, I listened carefully. At church gatherings, he would sit near me. At youth singings, he would find reasons to talk to me. Little by little, we grew close. One evening, after a church service held in a neighbor's barn, he walked beside me while families prepared their buggies for the trip home. The sun was setting. The air smelled like fresh hay. I still remember his voice. "Sarah," he said softly, "I would like to keep seeing you." My heart felt so light that evening. I thought God was blessing my future. A year later, we married. The wedding was simple and beautiful. Family filled the house. Neighbors helped prepare food. The women cooked for days. The men arranged tables and benches. Everyone smiled. Everyone celebrated. I remember looking at Daniel and feeling safe. I truly believed I had found the man I would grow old with. Sigh. The first months of marriage were good, not perfect, but good. We moved into a small house near his parents' farm. Life became busy, very busy. Every morning started before sunrise. I cooked breakfast, fed chickens, helped in the garden, washed clothes, prepared meals, cleaned the house. Daniel worked long hours in the fields. At night, we were both tired. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we simply sat together in silence. That was normal in Amish marriages. At least, that was what I believed. As time passed, something began to change. It happened slowly, so slowly that I almost did not notice. Daniel became quieter, more distant. He smiled less. Some evenings he barely spoke at all. I kept telling myself he was tired. Harvest season was difficult. Farm work was demanding. I made excuses for him, again and again. Whenever worry entered my mind, I pushed it away. Pause. Then Rebecca started visiting more often. At first, it seemed normal. My sister lived only a few miles away. She often came to help me bake bread. Sometimes she helped with sewing. Sometimes she stayed for supper. I enjoyed having her around. She made the house feel lively. Whenever Rebecca laughed, the whole room seemed brighter. Even Daniel smiled more when she visited. At first, I was happy to see that. I thought maybe her cheerful spirit helped lift his mood. I never saw danger. I never suspected anything. Why would I? She was my sister. He was my husband, the 2 people I trusted most. One afternoon, Rebecca came to help me can vegetables. We spent hours in the kitchen. The summer heat made the room feel heavy. I remember stepping outside to fetch water from the pump. When I came back inside, I noticed something. Daniel and Rebecca were laughing together. Not just laughing, looking at each other. For a moment, the room felt strange. I cannot explain it. Something inside me felt uneasy. But the feeling disappeared almost as quickly as it came. I told myself I was imagining things. Rebecca was friendly with everyone. Daniel rarely laughed. Maybe I was simply happy to see him smiling again. So I ignored it. That was my mistake. Sigh. Weeks passed, then months. The distance between Daniel and me grew larger. Meanwhile, he seemed more interested whenever Rebecca was around. I noticed little things. Nothing big enough to accuse anyone. Nothing that seemed wrong by itself. Yet together, they began forming a picture I did not want to see. A smile that lasted too long. A conversation that stopped when I entered the room. A glance that felt different. I tried not to think about it. I prayed about it. I asked God to remove the doubts from my heart. I wanted peace. I wanted my marriage to be strong again. Most of all, I wanted to believe my family was exactly what it seemed, but deep inside, a quiet fear was growing. And soon that fear would become impossible to ignore. Because one autumn afternoon, I found something that changed everything. Not a photograph, not a picture, but a small, handwritten letter hidden where it should never have been. And when I unfolded that letter, my life began to fall apart. I stood in the kitchen with that letter in my hand. For a moment, I did not breathe. The room was quiet except for the soft crackle of the stove and the sound of my own heart beating too fast. The letter had been hidden behind a folded stack of Daniel's work shirts. I had only found it because I was putting away clean laundry. A small corner of paper had slipped out from under the cloth. At first, I thought it was a note from his father. Then I saw the handwriting. Rebecca's handwriting, my younger sister. My fingers felt cold as I opened it. The words were simple, too simple. Daniel, I know this is wrong, but I cannot stop thinking about you. When Sarah is near, I feel ashamed. But when you look at me, I feel seen. I read that line again and again. My knees became weak. I wanted to believe I had misunderstood. Maybe it was not what it sounded like. Maybe Rebecca had written it in foolishness and Daniel had never answered. But then I saw the last line. I will wait near the old corn crib after supper, like before. Like before. Those two words cut deeper than anything. This was not the first time. I folded the letter with shaking hands. I wanted to cry, but no tears came. I only stood there like a foolish girl, staring at the wooden floor. Outside, Daniel was working near the barn. Rebecca was supposed to come that evening to help me mend quilt squares for Mother. My mind kept saying, ask him. Ask him now. But another part of me was afraid of the answer, afraid that once I spoke the words, my marriage would never be whole again. So I did what many Amish women are taught to do. I stayed quiet. I cooked supper. I set the table. I poured water into the cups. I moved like my body belonged to someone else. When Daniel came inside, he washed his hands at the basin and sat down. He looked tired, normal. That made it worse. How could he look so normal when my heart was breaking? He glanced at me once. You are quiet tonight, he said. I forced myself to look at him. I am just tired. He nodded and began eating. No guilt on his face. No fear, nothing. A little later, Rebecca arrived. She came through the door with a basket of sewing cloths in her arms. Sarah, she said softly, I brought the blue pieces Mother wanted. Her voice sounded sweet. Her face looked innocent. But I could not look at her the same way anymore. My own sister stood in my kitchen, and suddenly she felt like a stranger. Daniel looked up when she entered. It was quick, very quick, but I saw it. His eyes changed, just for a breath, and Rebecca saw him too. That night, after supper, I pretended to feel sick. I told Rebecca she could go home early. I told Daniel I was going to bed, but I did not go to bed. I waited in the dark hallway until I heard the back door open. Daniel stepped outside, quietly, carefully, like a man who did not want to be heard. My whole body trembled. I followed from far behind. The autumn air was cold, the moon was hidden behind clouds, and the farmyard looked gray and still. I stayed near the side of the barn, holding my shawl tight around me. Then I saw them, Daniel and Rebecca, near the old corn crib. They stood close, too close. I could not hear every word, but I heard enough. Rebecca was crying. Daniel said, "I cannot keep pretending." My chest tightened. Rebecca whispered, "Then tell her, tell her." Those words made the world spin. I wanted to step out. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask them how they could do this to me, but my feet would not move. Then Daniel reached for Rebecca's hand. My own husband held my sister's hand like she was the one he loved. I turned away before I saw more. I went back into the house, climbed into bed, and lay there with my eyes open until morning. No sleep came, only pain. The next day, I went to my mother's house. I did not tell her everything at first. I only asked if Rebecca had been acting strange. Mother looked at me with tired eyes. "Sarah, what is wrong?" I tried to speak, but my voice broke. Then everything came out. The letter, the glances, the meeting near the corn crib. Mother covered her mouth with her hand. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she whispered, "This will shame the family." Those were her first words. Not, "Are you hurt?" Not, "How could they?" Only, "This will shame the family." That was when I understood something painful. In our world, a woman's broken heart was not always the first concern. Sometimes family reputation came first. Church peace came first. Silence came first. My father was told that evening. He was angry, but not in the way I hoped. He was angry that the matter could become known. He said Daniel must come speak with him. Rebecca was kept inside the house. I heard she cried all night, but I did not feel sorry for her. Not then. My hurt was too fresh. 2 days later, Daniel came to my father's farm. He sat across from me at the kitchen table. My father stood near the stove. Mother sat beside me. No one spoke for a while. Then Daniel looked at me. His face was pale. "I have sinned against you," he said. I waited for him to say he was sorry. I waited for him to say it was over. But he did not. Instead, he said the words that changed my life forever. "I care for Rebecca." The room went silent. I felt Mother's hand tighten around mine. Daniel kept his eyes low. "I tried to stop it," he said, "but my heart is not with you anymore." I stared at him. This was the man I had married, the man I had cooked for, prayed beside, washed clothes for, waited for, loved. And he was telling me his heart belonged to my younger sister. I asked one question. "Did you ever love me?" He looked up then. His eyes were wet, but that did not help me. I thought I did. Those 4 words were crueler than shouting. I thought I did. Like our marriage was a mistake. Like I had been a duty. Like I had been chosen because I was proper and quiet and easy to approve. But Rebecca had his heart. The church leaders became involved after that. Everything had to be handled carefully, quietly. There were visits, long talks, prayers, warnings. Daniel was told to repent. Rebecca was told to confess. I was told to remain humble. That word stayed with me. Humble. I was the wounded one, but I was still expected to be gentle, still expected to forgive, still expected not to bring shame. People looked at me differently at gatherings. No one said much, but I felt their eyes. Some felt pity. Some wondered what I had failed to do as a wife. That was the part that hurt in a different way. When a husband turns away, people often look at the wife and ask silent questions. Was she too cold? Too plain? Too stubborn? Too young? Too weak? I asked myself those questions every night. I looked at my hands, rough from work, and wondered why they were not enough. I looked at my face in the small dark window at night and wondered what Rebecca had that I did not. Then I hated myself for thinking that way, because she was my sister, and I still loved her somewhere deep under all the hurt. That made it worse. A week later, Rebecca came to see me. I did not want to open the door, but I did. She stood there in a dark dress, her face swollen from crying. She looked younger than 18, almost like the little girl who used to sleep beside me and whisper secrets in the dark. "Sarah," she said, "I did not mean for this to happen." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because those words were so small compared to what she had done. "You wrote him letters," I said. She looked down. "You met him behind my home." Tears fell from her eyes. "I know." "You held his hand." She covered her face. I wanted her to deny it. I wanted her to say I had misunderstood, but she did not. Then she whispered something I was not ready to hear. "I am going away for a while." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" She wiped her face with her sleeve. "Father is sending me to Aunt Miriam's settlement in Indiana." I nodded slowly. Maybe that was best. Maybe distance would end it. Maybe Daniel would come back to his senses. Maybe my marriage could still be saved. But then Rebecca placed one hand over her stomach, just for a second. A small movement, almost nothing. But I saw it, and when I saw it, the hidden truth became even darker. I looked at her hand, then at her face. She began to cry harder. And I knew. There was more to this secret than a letter, more than a meeting near the corn crib, more than stolen feelings. My younger sister was carrying something that could destroy all of us. My eyes stayed on Rebecca's hand. The room felt smaller. The air felt heavy. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. I already knew the answer. But part of me prayed I was wrong. Part of me begged God to let me be wrong. Then I whispered, "Rebecca." She lowered her head, tears rolled down her cheeks, and slowly, she nodded. I felt my legs weaken. I sat down in the nearest chair because I thought I might fall. The sound of the clock on the wall suddenly seemed loud. Tick, tick, tick. Every second felt painful. "Does Father know?" I asked. Rebecca shook her head. "No." "Mother?" Another shake of her head. "No." I closed my eyes. My own sister was carrying a child, and I already knew who the father was. I did not even need to ask. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then Rebecca finally looked at me. "I never wanted this." The words made fresh pain rise inside me. "You had many chances to stop." She cried harder. "I know. You were my sister. I know. You came into my house. I know." Every answer was the same, and somehow that made everything worse. Because she knew exactly what she was doing, yet she had done it anyway. A few days later, the truth came out. Nothing stays hidden forever in a small Amish community, especially not something like this. Father learned the truth first. I had never seen him look so broken, not angry, broken. His shoulders seemed older, his eyes seemed tired. Mother cried for hours, my brothers barely spoke. The entire family felt like it had been hit by a storm. Then came the church meetings, long meetings, painful meetings. Church leaders spoke with Daniel, they spoke with Rebecca, they spoke with my parents, and they spoke with me, again and again. Questions, prayers, confessions, more questions. Some people were kind, some were not. A few quietly blamed me. I could feel it. No one said it directly, but I heard whispers. Maybe Sarah was not affectionate enough. Maybe Sarah pushed him away. Maybe Sarah failed as a wife. Those whispers hurt almost as much as Daniel's betrayal. Because I had tried. I had given everything I knew how to give. I had worked beside him, cooked for him, prayed for him, loved him, and somehow that still had not been enough. The weeks that followed were the hardest of my life. Daniel moved out of our house. I returned to my parents' farm. Every morning I woke up hoping the nightmare had ended. Every morning I remembered it was real. Sometimes I would be helping Mother knead bread. Sometimes I would be hanging laundry. Sometimes I would be feeding chickens. And suddenly the memory would hit me. Daniel holding Rebecca's hand. Daniel saying, "My heart is not with you anymore." Daniel saying, "I thought I did." Then the pain would come all over again. Fresh, sharp, like the wound had just happened. Winter arrived early that year. Snow covered the fields. The trees stood bare against gray skies. Most evenings I sat near the stove sewing quilts. The warmth touched my hands, but it never seemed to reach my heart. One snowy afternoon, a letter arrived. It was from Rebecca. She was living with Aunt Miriam in Indiana. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Part of me wanted to throw it into the fire, but I opened it. Inside was a long letter. Most of it was apologies, page after page. She wrote about her guilt, her shame, her fear, her regret. She wrote that she missed me every day. She wrote that she dreamed about our childhood, the nights we shared a room, the games we played, the secrets we told each other. Then near the end, she wrote something that made me cry. "Sarah, if I could take back one day in my life, I would take back the day I first answered Daniel's letter." I stared at that sentence. For the first time, I realized something. Rebecca had not won anything. She had lost too. She had lost her sister. She had lost her home. She had lost the trust of our family, and she would carry that burden for the rest of her life. That realization did not remove my pain, but it changed it. The anger slowly became sadness, and sadness slowly became understanding. Not approval, never approval, but understanding. People make terrible choices. Sometimes those choices destroy lives. Sometimes they destroy their own lives too. Several months later, Daniel came to see me one final time. The snow was beginning to melt. Small patches of green were appearing in the fields. He stood outside my parents' house looking older than before. More tired, more worn. I invited him inside. We sat at the kitchen table where so many difficult conversations had happened. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then he looked at me. "I wanted to say I am sorry." His voice sounded different. Not proud, not defensive, just tired, very tired. I nodded, but I did not speak. He looked down at his hands. "I hurt you." "Yes." "I hurt your family." "Yes." Tears filled his eyes. "I will regret that for the rest of my life." For the first time since everything happened, I believed him. Not because his words changed anything, but because I could see the truth in his face. The choices he had made had damaged everyone, including himself. When he finally left, I stood at the window and watched his buggy disappear down the road, and something unexpected happened. I felt lighter. Not happy. Not healed. But lighter. For months I had carried anger like a heavy stone. That day, part of that weight finally left me. Years later, people still remember what happened. Small communities do not forget easily, but I learned something important through all of it. A person's betrayal does not decide your worth. For a long time, I believed Daniel chose Rebecca because I was not enough. Not pretty enough. Not exciting enough. Not lovable enough. But that was never the truth. His choice was his choice. It was not a measure of my value. Today, when I think about that young woman sitting alone beside the stove, crying herself to sleep every night, I wish I could sit beside her. I wish I could take her hand. And I would tell her this: you will survive. The pain will not last forever. The people who hurt you do not get to decide who you are. And sometimes, the end of the life you planned becomes the beginning of the life God had planned for you all along. I never got the marriage I dreamed about. I never got the future I expected. But I found something else: strength, faith, peace. Not all at once. Slowly. One day at a time. And that became enough. That is the truth I carried for many years. The truth about how my Amish husband left me for my younger sister. And the truth about how I finally learned to let go. The betrayal broke my heart. But it did not break me.